The barometer of success has many different levels and does not come preconditioned with an artificial measure of progress or predetermined filter. For everyone's portrait of success is different, and it's incumbent upon all of us to use the platform we're given to make a positive difference. Michael Biarnes knows all about this. He's the author of the upcoming book, Redefining Success. A book about achieving better happiness, fulfillment, and alignment in life around things which matter to you. However, this is just scratching the surface and the tip of the iceberg of Biarnes' thought-provoking, interesting, and compelling life's journey. The next 25 minutes of your time will be well spent if you take some time to engage in listening to Biarnes' knowledge, expertise, and humor. I'm Kevin McShad. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. So, Michael, if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the program. I wish you a happy Friday, and it's great to see you today, buddy.
Yeah, great to see you, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me.
And Michael, I know that a big part of what you do as we dive into today's conversation is helping people sort of redefine success. So I'm wondering if you can dive into that for me this afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. Through all my work and my research for my book and conversations with all sorts of people, I've come to the realization that everyone needs to define success for themselves. And we often like to think of success regarding money, power, fame, the things that society dictate are what makes someone successful. But in reality, we're all much more complicated than that. There are many facets in our lives, and we need to figure out what matters truly to us. And we need to align our lives around those things. And if we do that, then we are successful.
And Michael, I ask every author I interview this question, so I won't leave you out of the party. So tell me, where does your passion for writing come from? Why do you want to be an author, buddy? Where does your passion for writing come from?
Yeah, so the passion it's actually twofold. So one, this passion project started a little selfishly, right? I was going through my own journey and struggles, trying to figure out what mattered to me and going through a difficult time when my father passed. I really found myself asking why I was doing the things I was doing, what my priorities in life were, and how I wanted to move forward. And as I started talking to people, and I worked as a career counselor for a bit, I realized that a lot of people struggle with how to balance all the different facets of life, how to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. And I say that jokingly because that happens at every age. And so, you know, I think that this passion project started off as my own journey, and then I realized once it wasn't just for me, I started writing about it, and here we are, a book later, and be published this December.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you on the road to publication, because I know road to publication for authors isn't always smooth. So I wish you the best of luck in crossing the finish line there, buddy.
Thank you so much. We'll do everything we can to get there.
So tell me, just before we dive into the book, tell me about the publishing process and how that's going for you, because I know it's different for every author.
Yeah, so mine is a bit unique. I actually found a fantastic community and program through the Creator Institute. And effectively, what it is an individual, his name is Eric Custer, has created this fantastic program that demystifies the book publishing process. And so you meet with him every week. He talks about, the essence of writing, and he splits it up with nonfiction and fiction. And then you get hooked up with a developmental editor, so you get an accountability buddy. You also have this group of other individuals who are going through the same writing journey as you are, and they also hold you accountable and take you along the journey with them, because in the end, writing a book, it's not like what you see in the movies where someone goes into solitude for a month and they come back with a book. It really takes a village. And so it's been a fantastic journey. It's been going on for quite some time, and now I'm happy to report that my pre-order campaign has started and people are buying the book, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. That's the whole reason you wrote it, right?
Yeah, again, you write a book, not you do it selfishly, right? You do it for you, and you hope others will find the message to resonate. And I'm fortunate that it does.
Well, since they're pre-ordering the book, you're off to a fast start, though, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, Michael, let's talk about the book, Redefining Success, a book about how to achieve better happiness, fulfillment, and alignment around the life and things that are that matter or that are important to you. So, tell me all about the book.
Yeah, so the book is written in two parts. The first part is I had the opportunity to interview over a dozen extremely impressive individuals and share their stories. So we're talking, if you know Apollo Ono, if you know the Olympian, he was a speed skater, the most decorated U.S. Olympian in U.S. history. He was one of the people that I was able to interview. And, thankfully, COVID brought a lot of negatives, but a positive was that the Zoom environment was a real thing and people accepted calls. So, Apollo Ono, Matthew Barry, he's the face of fantasy football. I got to interview him. The person who coined the term FOMO, fear of missing out. Also the founder of High West Distillery, if you're a whiskey fan, and the list goes on and on and on. And, it goes from folks just like a college buddy of mine all the way to folks who are almost celebrities. So the part one is largely about them. I insert some of my story, and a little bit of my research, but it's largely about telling the stories of them. And part two is I dove into the research, since I have a science background, of what is science, what is happiness, what is the science of happiness, what is fulfillment, and what do we need to do to achieve happiness and fulfillment. And I end with a framework for individuals to really identify their own priorities in life and start making tangible steps towards better happiness, alignment, and fulfillment in their own lives.
And from your perspective as the author of the book, when people read the book, what's the one thing or one message that you hope that resonates with them, if any at all?
I think it has to be that no one can say what success is but you. Success is not something that can be measured with an external metric like money, house, fame, power. Success is everything that you want in life, and it is much more encompassing than just your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you have a background in healthcare as well, and you're a healthcare leader that helps with a skill set of knowledge and the technical expertise to bridge the gap between business and science. So how do you think we get this done?
Yeah, so the big picture answer is communication, frankly. I think having a master's in biotechnology, I've worked with a lot of scientists, a lot of PhDs, really bright individuals. Now with an MBA, I've also worked on the business side of things. And so I can understand both points of view. And oftentimes there's a gap because people on the science side are doing amazing work, but may not always be able to communicate that and the value of that. And on the flip side, the business side, they also need to be able to communicate and understand that science and then translate that to something usable for customers at the end. And so I think it's all about communication, and that's where I try to bridge that gap if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have the knowledge and the ability to recommend and implement strategic courses of action for processes and for improvement and organizational growth. So tell me all about that.
Yeah, so that's all about understanding people and processes. So with all of that communication that I just alluded to for bridging the gap, you also get to understand how people operate and what they do and why they do it. And as you start thinking and brainstorming and problem solving ways to make things more efficient, it's really with the input of a whole team that you can move forward. And oftentimes what ends up happening is people are doing things in really unique and innovative ways that other people are not even aware of. And this could be within the same organization. And so what it's all about is talking to these folks, knowing what they do on a day-to-day basis, and making sure that the best practices really get to shine through and are implemented organizationally across the board.
Absolutely. And Michael, you know, I live my life through a saying that collaboration is what breeds success in life. And I know that you have experience forming all sorts of partnerships, from private partnerships with stakeholders. So I'm curious to how do you think we can form successful partnerships for growth between government, science, and business?
Yeah, so I think we can do a much better job here. Um, the key is to find mutual points of interest and then again speak the same language. So when I was managing these private public partnerships surrounding neuroscience, it's a really complex field, and so you have great work being undertaken by the government through the National Institutes of Health, and then of course you have biotech pharma also wanting to create these life-changing medicines to improve patient outcomes. And so the real key is, how can you leverage all of the amazing foundational work that the NIH is doing, create collaborative environments so that information can be shared back and forth with the biotech and pharma and even academic stakeholders, and then bring in regulatory, which is the FDA, so that by bringing all of these stakeholders in from literally phase one, the ground floor, you can expedite the innovation that takes place in such a complex space.
Yeah, fascinating perspective there. So thank you for sharing that. You know, Michael, doing my research on you, I found you to be a fascinating and interesting person. So I'm wondering, how do you keep your own self motivated, fulfilled, and sort of your energy up to attack the things that are important to you?
Yeah, so that's a great question, right? Like our job is never done in trying to chase happiness, trying to chase fulfillment. Unfortunately, as human beings, what drives us today may not drive us tomorrow. And so I have a few things that I've started to do on a daily or weekly basis. So, I think gratitude is supremely powerful to make sure that you stay in the right mindset, you appreciate the things that you have. But additionally, I've actually set calendar invites. I kid you not, calendar invites that remind me to reflect on the last month, maybe quarter, 6 months. How am I doing? I've actually written out a life plan, if you will. And that's not to say that I'm going to follow my life plan by any stretch of the imagination, but it's to say, okay, if I could pick my future today, how would I write that? And by doing that, I can now look back and say, okay, I wrote this life plan of my goals and things I wanted to achieve. Am I taking small steps every day towards living that kind of life? And if the answer is great, yes, then great. And if the answer is no, then it's all right. Well, is it because my goals have changed, or is it because I'm starting to stray down the wrong path? And so simply having these accountability days of reflection really go a long way for me.
Yeah, I know. reflection for me is a powerful tool, whether it's after success or failure or something in between. It's always important to take our own self sort of report card, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's tough, right? No one wants to be critical of themselves or give themselves an assessment with a report card, but I think it's supremely helpful.
Well, your own being your own self critic, because you know no one's harder on yourself than you, right? So that's important. So,
Yeah.
Michael, I'm curious to know for you, when you're not working, what do you define as fun? And for you, what's the greatest aspect about living life?
Ooh, two big questions. All right. So for fun, so I'm married, we have a dog, love hanging out with my wife and the dog whenever we can. Um, Love to travel and try new things. So that means new foods, going and traveling and seeing new cultures and celebrations, and really immersing myself in activities and experiences. I don't really need much in terms of tangible physical items to be happy, but trying new things and doing new things and experiences really go a long way. Um, in terms of um, the things that really drive that kind of happiness for me, it's really just all about the family and all about seeing friends and spending as much time as possible around the people that I care about.
Absolutely. So, when it comes to like guilty pleasures, Michael, whether it be food or your favorite Netflix series, what do you like to do to sort of let your hair down in terms of guilty pleasures there, buddy? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I'm a big time sports fan, so I love watching my Philadelphia sports teams. They often lose, but it's definitely guilty pleasure nonetheless. And then my wife and I definitely get to binge watch our Netflix shows from time to time. Um, Usually things that are lighthearted. So I just finished up Ozarks, which I love, not so lighthearted. But my wife and I also love the show New Girl now, but it changes from time to time. Just anything to distract ourselves.
Yeah, since you brought up Philadelphia sports, I'm curious to get your thoughts on whether you think the Sixers are going to trade Ben Simmons and who's going to start at quarterback for the Eagles.
Oh man. So yeah, unfortunately I think Ben Simmons will get traded. What's going to be funny is 2 or 3 years from now when he ends up being an all-star for some other team and takes us down in the playoffs. That seems to be the recipe for Philly sports. We trade someone and they become an MVP or a superstar. But yeah, I think right now it's a mental game. He probably needs to change the scenery. And it was a tough playoff performance, but so be it. He's still a tremendous athlete. And then for my beloved Eagles, I think it's gonna be a tough season. But I think the team is Jalen Hurts. It's his job to lose. So we'll see. We'll see how he does. But I think we have a nice supporting cast, and we could surprise and upset a few teams.
Well, Michael, I'm a long-suffering Detroit Lions fan, so at least you've won a Super Bowl in this decade,
That's
buddy.
true. I'm sorry. That is a tough, tough team to follow.
I'm not going to hold my breath for winning a Super Bowl and within my lifetime. I'm only trying to make the playoffs, buddy, or win a game. That'd be
Yeah.
nice. So,
Yeah, it's tough in that division.
hey, Michael, I'm curious to ask you about uh, emerging after COVID and what one thing have you sort of put in better perspective that you won't sort of take for granted again?
Yeah, so I think COVID has made us all reflect, right? And I think this whole concept of redefining success, we're seeing it with this whole great resignation movement where 40% of people in the US are looking at different jobs potentially in the next year. For me, I think the biggest takeaway is not taking for granted the opportunity to see friends. We were in solitude and isolation for quite some time with quarantine and with family and friends. It was nearly impossible to see anyone for a year. And so now anytime I get to see folks, I embrace that time and I look forward to it and I try and plan it as much as possible. And we'll see. It seems like COVID is an ever evolving virus. So hopefully we continue to progress and rid ourselves of it, but we'll see.
Absolutely. And tell me, Michael, I'm curious, how do you think you would want your personal and professional legacy to be defined?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this quite a bit, right? I think part of the whole redefining success question is, how do you want to be remembered, or how do you want people to think of you? And, there's an exercise I really like, which is you take some time and you think, if you had to write your own obituary today, what would you write about yourself? And so that's a really powerful exercise if you take it seriously, because most of the time you're not going to write anything about what you did for your career or for your 9 to 5. It's going to be more about the people you impacted, the people that you loved, the people that, you made a positive impression on. And so for me, my legacy, my impact, I hope to one day, have some kids and be a good father and raise them to, appreciate life and, respect others and live a certain way. I think that would really go well. And the other thing is I want to be remembered as someone that helps others. And so, my why, if you want to say why, like my big overarching why I do the things that I do, is I want to help others live the best version of their own lives. And so I do that through healthcare and, bringing innovative medicines to market so that we can improve patient outcomes. And I also do it through coaching and mentoring and this book, where I'm trying to help others take tangible steps towards happiness and fulfillment. And if I'm doing that and I'm making a positive impact on this world, well, I think I'm doing my job.
Yeah, I want to personally commend you for that. Michael, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia, cerebral palsy. It just simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. I've lived with it all my life, and one of the things that I live, or one of the mottos that I live my life by, is inclusion is the gateway to independence. So I want to thank you from a personal perspective for breaking down barriers to access to healthcare and helping others redefine success. So I want to thank you and commend you for the work that you've done, buddy.
Absolutely. Anything that I can do to help you or anyone, again, that's my mission. And, you know, I'm always here as a resource, and the work is never done, unfortunately. So I will keep pushing and continue to bring, new therapeutics to market so that we can help as many people as possible.
I always say that life is a constant game of connection, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. Nothing can be done alone. We go
Uh,
much farther together.
Absolutely. So no one alone can fix it, right? So
No, impossible.
absolutely. So I'm curious, Michael, if anyone wants to personally get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, so I welcome anyone to reach out. So I have my own website. So it's just www.michaelbiarnes.com. So MichaelBiarnes.com. And there you can find all the information about me. If you want to set up some time to chat, I would love to do so. If you want more information about my book, it's on the website. If you want to connect on LinkedIn or any social media platform, I love making connections, talking to people, and yeah, I welcome any and all.
Fantastic. Michael, I enjoyed our conversation about redefining success, the evolution of healthcare, and diving into a little bit of sports as well. As an old sports reporter, I always try to carve out a section of an interview to talk some sports. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time, your expertise, and your uh, energy on my behalf. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And, I'm happy to chat anytime, and hopefully go Lions. I'm rooting for you this year.
Well, nothing can be as bad as Matt Patricia, right? I'm
That's right.
kidding, but thanks again for the time and have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. You too.